So how many people had a hand or helped with this? I mean, just even counting you here helping me today. There's probably good 6 to 8 people that helped just with the installation. That's not counting the people we hired to come out here and to work. With the crane company, they had several people out here. The tower crew had several people out here. And as far as donations, financially, it was quite a few. We had businesses and we had individuals that made donations. The Ride the Ducks incident that happened, and having ability to talk down here at that time, there wasn't the new Skywarn repeater wasn't here yet. Our repeater didn't work that well, and so they didn't really have a good method of amateur air communication in the area for weather stuff. So, yeah, now between these two systems, that increases it greatly, and that was one of the reasons why the owner was interested in helping this. He never really had any qualms about it at all. He just wanted to make sure everything was going to be done, technically correctly, and it wasn't going to damage his building. And understandably so. You got to protect your assets. All right, so here we are in the observation deck at Shepherd Hills Inspiration Tower. Right now we're at about 160 feet above ground level. Above sea level, ground level is 1376 here. So if you do some quick math there, it's over 1,500 feet. So you can see all around this area. And what's interesting is if you look off to the west, you can't really see a whole lot of Silver City from here. But if you go up to the top of the penthouse, where our antenna is mounted, is about 225 feet. Right about 210 feet. You can see right into Silver City. So I think the ham repeaters and GMRS will work really well from this location. All right, so we have two cabinets of equipment here. The one on the left is the 146-655 repeater. That is part of the Southwest Missouri Linked repeater system. It's a 125 watt repeater. You got your amplifier, exciter, power supply, receiver, and the Motorola controller. And below it here we have an actual Duracom power supply. And then we have a DC distribution panel, which you can't see anything on the front side, but on the back side you'll see that's kind of how we're powering some of the equipment here. So this runs on 120 volts AC. You go down here to the controller, the side controller, the SCOM 7330. This is what receives signals from different sources. So in this particular controller, port 1 is for the repeater and port 2 is for our link radio. The link radio is what connects us to the link system. It's a UHF link radio. Normally it connects us to the crane repeater site. However, it can be changed to channel 2 to link us to Republic as a backup. And then down below we just have some power relays that actually control the fans in this amplifier. So anytime this transmits, the relay down here activates and turns the fans on inside this amplifier to keep it cool. At the very bottom we have the duplexer. The duplexer is what allows the repeater to transmit and receive simultaneously with one antenna system. So that's basically, this whole cabinet here is basically the 146.655 repeater. So if you come over to the other cabinet here, the top piece of equipment is a Motorola SLR 5700. It's a 50 watt UHF repeater that we use in DMR mode. This is the 444.45 repeater. As you can see here, that light indicates it has a network connection, which means it's connected to the internet, which means it can talk on Brandmeister. Again, we have a duplexer here, just like on the 2-meter repeater. It's the same concept except for smaller, because higher frequency duplexers are smaller. And so this allows, again, this repeater to transmit and receive simultaneously on one antenna system. And then down here below that is actually a receive preamplifier made by Angle Linear that's connected to this DMR repeater. It was kind of an afterthought, so it got put lower in the rack. When you look on down the rack, we have our basically a power strip that's grounded to power everything in here that needs AC power. And we have a router for the internet, and then we have remote control. The remote control allows us to do several things. Number one, we can turn this repeater off and on. We can turn this link radio off and on. And we can also monitor if there's interference. It will tell us if the interference is coming in on the receiver for the repeater or it's coming in via the link. So that's one way we can determine when we have an interference source on the link system, where it's coming from. If we find the site where it shows it's coming in on the repeater, then we shut that off. So all the sites have this piece of equipment. It's just basically an Ethernet to relay board. Throw a big shout out to Todd 80RR, who 3D printed all the cases for those, because they don't come with a case. Of course, we have our here we have our power over Ethernet injector. Thanks to Vanderlink, they provide us the internet here so that we can have connection to Brandmeister and remote control of the repeater system. And then down below, we have the GMRS repeater, which this is this current configuration. The plan is to improve upon it. In fact, we're going to do that today. This is a 25-watt repeater with power supply and then a small duplexer. We've got a larger duplexer and a preamplifier we're going to put on there. As you can see, pull this out of here. So we're going to go to a full-size duplexer on the GMRS repeater, which is 462.575 for transmit and 467.575 on receive. So you can see the size difference between that and this small duplexer. There's a lot more isolation between transmit and receive. That's going to help us to have better selectivity on the receive, which will help. It allows us to run a preamplifier on the receive, which we also plan to do. That's what this is. This is an advanced receiver preamp with a little 3 dB pad to help with matching. So we'll put this on today so the repeater will receive better. Of course, the goal is at some point to add an amplifier to get us up to the maximum limit of 50 watts on GMRS. That's really, or 50 watts to the antenna. Because right now, we're probably seeing 15 watts to the antenna system. If you want to come around back, we can look here as well. First, we can take a look at this. This is the grounding system here. So we were just actually notified today that they took lightning on this tower and it damaged their elevator controls. This grounding was installed by a cell phone company that was here at one point in time, so we kind of took advantage of that. So all of our equipment goes to this ground bar, and then that ground bar is, there's ground wires everywhere in this building. There's another ground bar there. There's another ground bars over there. The ground wires actually go all the way up to the roof, or over here. We got 2 ground wires that go up there, one to a ground rod, and another actually is bonded to the roof of this building and to the pole at the top where our antennas are mounted. So that's how we ground everything. Everything's grounded with these lightning arresters, and all the antenna systems are color-coded so we know which one connects to where, so if it ever gets disconnected, we can reconnect it easily. So on around to the back. This is the back of the 2-meter repeater system here. It's basically just a bunch of wiring. You have your transmit cable and your receive cable that goes to the duplexer, a ground connection. This connects to the SCOM controller, these 2 wires. And then if you scoot on down here, we have the actual power supply center. This is the 75 amp power supply, which is overkill for what we're doing. We were actually doing more with it before we moved it over here. We have the SCOM repeater controller, which has your radio connections, And then the logic connections, it controls the fan that I was talking about earlier, and then it runs over here to this relay board as well. The link radio, which links us to Crane or Republic, just has a simple antenna connection. It's a simplex type radio, meaning just like your base station at home, when you key your microphone, you're transmitting. When you don't key your microphone, you're receiving. You can't do both at the same time. There's not a duplexer on it. So that's how we link up the 2-meter repeater to the link system. Now on the back side of this, this is the DMR repeater at the top. Then you have your coax cables that go to the duplexer and to the receive multi-coupler, which is way down at the bottom. You have your network connection for the internet, and of course power. Duplexer, your receiver connects here, transmitter here, antenna, AC power strip, and then this is a GMRS repeater, very similar to the link radio over there, except this has 2 antenna connections. Funny enough, to make that a simplex radio, we actually have to remove the receive connection. You cut the wire off and you reroute it inside here and solder it to a TR relay that Kenwood builds into these repeaters, so you can run them either way. And if you want to reverse that, obviously you can. But these are very versatile. These are 25 watt. We run them at 25 watts. They're 40 watt repeaters, so I figure they'll last a longer time that way. And then all the way over here, on the bottom of the cabinet, you see where we have our AC lightning protection. That's supposed to protect us from lightning that might come in or leave through the AC power line. Of course, you got the big number 2 gauge wire. And everything in here, all these green wires, number 6 ground, everything that has a ground connection is bonded to ground. Some pieces of equipment do not, like this duplexer does not have a ground connection. This repeater, for some reason, Kenwood does not put ground connections on their repeaters. So we opted not ground those at this point. But everything that has a ground connection is grounded on a single bus that goes up via number 2 stranded ground wire to the main ground bus. Then our coax, as you can see there, leaves the ground bus and goes up to basically a cut in the sheetrock in the ceiling and goes up to the top of the building. So we have about 50 feet of coax on each one of these antennas. So if you want to think of it that way, it's about 50 feet from here, goes all the way up to the top of the structure, and then out through the roof. There's actually a port in the roof where it has an entry boot. If you're familiar with those, they call it a donut. It's got 4 holes in the middle of it. Actually, that one only has 3. And we run 1 piece of coax through each. One for the GMRS repeater antenna, one for the DMR, and then one for the 2-meter repeater. And so if you look outside, I'm sure you'll see in the videos of the drone video that you took, you can see the antennas mounted on the pole up there, which we thought when we were putting the equipment in or we're making planning, there's a large pole that goes up through the center of the roof. We thought that was actually went all the way up, but apparently no, it's just a flange, and there's a stainless steel pole that bolts to that flange on top of the building. So that pole can be easily removed just by simply removing those bolts. So the 146.655 repeater, it is part of the Region D areas and Region D Emergency Operations Plan for the State Emergency Management Agency. So if there is an issue in this region in Southwest Missouri, then Southwest Missouri linked repeater system is kind of a rallying point to get people into the area. Just it could be for a number of things. We always think about tornadoes more than anything, and the Skywarn system, is fantastic, but sometimes you have to have other modes to be able to communicate, or other options, so to speak, because they might be busy with severe weather on the Skywarn system. So if we have another option like this, the Aries or Races, Saturn, or any of the other entities need to use or want to use, it's available. And so that's why we kind of dedicated that too. So now this can be a backup for Skywarn. We have an MOU with Skywarn, so if they have an issue with their repeater and there's still ongoing severe weather, they need to use it, they can definitely do that. So yeah, all the SMLRS repeaters can be run in standalone mode or link mode, or we can link different repeaters together. One example of that would be like we just did last weekend in Springfield. They had the Tour de Crawdad bike ride, and so we were able to take the repeaters like the 225 and the 015 off the main network and then link them up to the backup hub repeater in Republic. We can do that here too. If we had something going on just between Branson and Springfield, say they're having a charity golf cart ride up 65 or something crazy like that, we can link this repeater just to the 015 through a different hub. It would likely be Republic, because both of these repeaters they're engineered or designed, so to speak, so that they can reach to that Republic repeater. New preamplifier and the new duplexer wired into the repeater. And we're just going to check it and see make sure everything's working okay. So I got to plug frequencies in here. So this is 467.575. I'm going to go up here, adjust the PL tone and the deviation. This is wideband, so we're set at 1000 hertz tone at 3 kilohertz deviation. And we're going to change the PL tone to 162.2. And it sets deviation from 300 to 600 hertz for wideband. And we're going to be receiving on the repeater output, so we'll put that in here. That's 462.575. And it's already transmitting. Let's turn the speaker on here. This is already a lot better. That's pretty ridiculous. So, right now the squelch will stay open at 0.11 microvolts. For those of you that like to think in dBm, that's minus 126.2. That's quite a difference. Before it was 0.35 microvolts, and just for a reference, I'll take you up there. And so now you get to 0.24 or 0.25, it's a full quieting signal. And you get to 0.35 where it was before, that was just barely opening squelch, like 0.11. That's minus 116, that's almost a 10 dB difference. That's going to help the receive substantially. And we're getting 30.75 watts out of the duplexer. So I'm really happy with all that. That's going to help a lot. Get a look at my deviation. 3.6, which is right where I want it. If I'm injecting a 3000 hertz tone with a 600 kilohertz or 600 hertz tone PL tone, I want it to be about 3.6. That's 3.67. We're off frequency by 45 hertz. That could probably be adjusted a little bit. That's not for today though. We're gonna shut this off. Uh, makes me put a, so that's 0.25 again. That's pretty crazy. So the GMRS is going to work a lot better now.
Yeah.
So this is the inside of the logic connector for the link radio to Crane. One thing I try to do with all the sites is have some documentation. So I had this brown wire started on pin 20. Well, that's labeled AIO1. So what we need to do now is just put this back together. Originally, the DMR repeater that's in this other cabinet here was a joint effort between Nixa and Branson. And so they paid for half of the repeater when we put it online. Otherwise, we couldn't have afforded to have done it. And the city of Branson had an antenna that was a spare that they weren't using. Actually, it had been deemed bad by a local two-way radio shop, and it really wasn't bad at all. It just needed some TLC. There's a jumper cable at the top that was bad. We fixed that, and they let us use it. And so that's kind of how the DMR project, but there's lots of different areas where our club, and not just our club, other clubs work with different groups to help with different projects or bike rides, public service events. And we didn't do a bike ride last year because the one that we've been doing for so many years, they didn't have it. But there's people from Branson that come up to do that. There's people from the Smart Club in Springfield that help with that. Greene County Aries, Polk County Club. We have people from Nevada, El Dorado Springs, all over the place that will come and help with different things. And so, and a lot of the same people, they'll come to our club meetings as well. And they're involved that way and with different projects that we have going on. Our club is a Nixa club. It's not mean we just do stuff in Nixa. Just like Branson doesn't just do things in Branson. They have stuff in Kimberlake City and elsewhere that they're involved with. So even up into Springfield, like I said, when they come and help us with bike rides. So you get into some areas, there can be more of an animosity between clubs or a rivalry or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's healthy and in good spirit. Sometimes it's not. Aurora has a good club here too. We've done some work with Aurora. We helped them with their repeater out at Freistadt, 14697. When El Dorado still had their club, we helped them put their 14667 on the air up at Cedar Springs. So, and there's sometimes instances like when the Lakes Area Club up of Oliver dissolved, they asked us if we'd take over their repeaters. We did. The Lebanon Club asked us if we'd take over one of their repeaters at Conway because they wanted a DMR repeater but didn't know how to do it, so we said sure. So there's just a number of things that can happen. It's not always bad. Usually, from my experience around here so far, a lot of times it's through good intentions. It's not like people trying to do things with malice or to cause hate and discontent. So there's a lot of working together that goes on here compared to other places that I've seen. It's funny how things tend to work out. You work and you work and you work and try to get something done, like this project, and the timing comes and we had a certain window to do this because they're going to open for tourist season. And they said, well, we can't close the place down for a crane to be here for a whole day during tourist season. So they basically gave us like a 2 to 3 week time window to put the antennas up. So number one, you're praying for good weather, and then everybody's schedules have to, the crane company has to get together, the tower crew has to get together. I have to be able to take off work to do it. And then we have this trailer project that comes in, and Sean, KE0JGI, wrote a great grant for that. And it was almost, between it and the Nixa Community Foundation, about $21,000 to rehab the trailer. So we're putting a new repeater in it, we're upgrading the the interior of it, putting some cabinets in, new computers, all sorts of stuff. But there's a lot more people who can help with that. But yeah, that's been, and of course the ARRL, they have set points they want you to meet along the way and make reports to them. And so we're trying to get things done so we can report to them and get this done at the same time. It's been pretty busy. At least it didn't happen during the Hamfest. That'd have been a whole nother story. Now, so last weekend we were at the MORE Expo, the Overland Expo up in Springfield, which is basically is more of an off-roading event. But getting back to the GMRS aspect of everything, there's a lot of people that use GMRS and CB radio for their communications when they're off-roading. And Dave, KE6GAE, thought it'd be a great idea to be at that event and got us into it so that we could promote amateur radio. And I guess they had a great turnout, a lot of people there, a lot of questions asked about amateur radio. And so maybe we'll get some new amateur radio operators out of it, not just people that are on GMRS and FRS and CB radio. It just gives them other opportunities to communicate when they're out in the sticks or wherever they're four-wheeling. So that's another thing that we've done there.